Hello everybody and welcome back to Odin's Movie Blog. I am the critic who is a cynic. Hope everyone is doing well. So it's the weekend and I thought that we were going to have, a nice quiet weekend. Things were not going to go crazy with the Star Wars news, but apparently they can't stop. At least the people at comicbook.com can't stop, specifically Nicole Drum. And so here the title says, no, Disney is not ruining Star Wars. Now I have peeked at a little bit just to see what is the main argument that she's trying to make. And guys, it is quite a doozy and it really does fit the narrative that we've been talking about now for a very long time about who they are blaming and why they are blaming in the first place. And this just dives right into it. And get ready for this one because it's fun. All right, so let's see. Let's get that a little bit bigger for you guys. All right. We need to talk about Star Wars. The latest entry in the Star Wars universe, Solo, a Star Wars story, opened in theaters a few weeks ago and promptly failed to live up to box office expectations. Almost immediately people began to blame this on backlash against the franchise because Disney has ruined it. So first off, once again, we have these people just writing nonsense, just not basing things in reality, not using common sense, not using reason, and just totally distorting the facts altogether. So we see it says opened in theaters a few weeks ago and promptly failed to live up to box office expectations. Tell me that a movie losing $200 million is just failing to live up to box office expectations, and we can have a discussion. But no one in the right mind would ever say that, because if a movie loses $200 million, they would say, no, that's a box office disaster. That is a box office bomb. But yeah, again, these people just don't want to base themselves in reality. They just don't want to speak commonsensically. And you know what? Fine. You know what? You can go ahead and say that. You and your ilk can constantly try and make this garbage up and say, oh, it just didn't live up to expectations, and just totally disregard the facts altogether. No, it lost $200 million, at least at the box office. That is not a good thing. That is a bomb. That is a total, oh my goodness. That phrase alone is just the one that gets me every single time, is when they try and act like the box office was not a big deal, when in reality it was. And now, of course, we see now they're saying, well, people are saying the reason why it failed was because of Disney and no other reason. Well, again, we say that there's a lot of other reasons why Solo failed, but a big part of that was the backlash against Disney. We will say that much, but we will also admit that there were other factors as well. Possibly the marketing, possibly the casting, possibly so many other factors, but you cannot deny that a major part of it was the backlash against Disney, and that Disney is responsible for the backlash and for the various things that have happened since then. All right, goes on to say, and Disney ruined Star Wars sentiment isn't limited to Solo. It shows up in people harassing The Last Jedi star Kelly Marie Tran until she left social media. Again, we don't know if that's true. She's never said anything about that. We've already proven that Instagram, you can delete all your content and not actually leave Instagram altogether. Again, there's so many different factors and so many different things that you can talk about with this story that are actually based in reason, and you're just continuing. So we see once again, you first said, oh, the box office was just a disappointment. It just failed to live up to expectations. No, it was a bomb. And now you're trying to say, oh, harassing Kelly Marie Tran, that's the reason why she left social media. Again, there's no evidence of that whatsoever. Again, I'm still waiting to find the evidence. I'm still waiting for Kelly Marie Tran to actually come out and say, this is why he's left social media. These are the comments that were being told to me. And again, if it was ever proven that that was the reason why she left, again, I would support her to an extent, because I don't think anyone should ever be talked to that way. But at the same time, any person who's ever been on social media in a public way has been attacked. I've been attacked. I'm a very small channel on YouTube, and I have been personally attacked for my looks. I've been personally attacked for my beard. I've been personally attacked for a lot of different reasons. And at the end of the day, I don't think that that's just in and of itself enough to really latch on to. Obviously, again, I'm not trying to downplay. I'm not saying that it's nothing, but at the end of the day, that's kind of comes with the territory of being on social media. It's disgusting, it's awful, but it's not something out of the ordinary. It's not something that is just left to Asian actors or black actors or white actors or again, every single person that has a public persona is going to be attacked by someone, because unfortunately, we are human beings. Fortunately, we're human beings, but unfortunately, we are also human beings, and therefore, we have a broken human nature, and we are going to, at least some of us are going to act like just idiots. I mean, I'm sorry, that's just, unfortunately, that's the way that things work today. So it goes on to say, it rears its head in calls for Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy to be fired, or worse, because of new characters or storylines. It's reached the point that one can barely mention Star Wars online without hearing about just how terrible Disney is. Well, I think the biggest issue is with Lucasfilm, and a lot of people say, well, Disney owns Lucasfilm. Yes, but also Lucasfilm is kind of, in a lot of ways, its own self-functioning company, or its subsection where there's a president, there are, people who are making decisions on that level, and I don't think, based on what I've read and based on what I understand about it, they don't really answer to anyone at Disney. It's not like they have to say, oh, I have to, it's not like Kathleen Kennedy has to say, oh, my decision to greenlight this film has to be backed up by Disney. Again, they don't really ever talk about that because it doesn't really seem to be the case, because when they chose her as the, when she is the president of Lucasfilm, so they trust her to make decisions. They trust her to make financially successful decisions. She hasn't done that. Again, $200 million loss from Solo, $700 million between Force Awakens and, The Last Jedi. So there really is a strong case to be made that she's not doing her job. And so I think that we really have to be honest about this once again. So we see these people are just making these just very generic statements, not really basing things in reality, and it's just something that's really problematic. And here's the line that I skipped ahead to that really just says it all, and this really does speak to everything that's been going on. The whole reason why we've been talking about this, why we will continue to talk about this, is because of this mindset that the media has, that Lucasfilm has, that so many in Hollywood have, and that is, but here's the thing. Disney hasn't ruined Star Wars. If anything, the fans have. Please hear me out. So here we have, in a very direct way, someone blaming the fans, blaming the fan base for destroying Star Wars. Now, it wasn't the fans who made The Last Jedi. It wasn't the fans who wrote a narrative mess in The Last Jedi. It was not the fans who just remained very inconsistent throughout the first 2 films of this new franchise. That was Lucasfilm. That was the directors and writers of Lucasfilm, not the fans. The fans simply saw the product, saw the problems with the product, and said, hey, here's what the reality is, here's how we feel, and then what was the reaction? Oh, y'all are a bunch of idiots, y'all are a bunch of racists, y'all are a bunch of sexists, y'all just hate because there's a strong female lead, and that's the only reason why. There's no other reason why. It's strictly because Rey's a female. That's the only reason why you don't like her. And all of those things I just said are not true and are not based in reality, or not based in fact. And once again, this also is not based in fact or reality either, but let's see what she has to actually say. She says, there are plenty of reasons to be a fan of the post-Disney Star Wars offerings. I too thought General Leia Organa's weird force-powered space flight that let her somehow survive being blasted in the vacuum of universe was a step too far. It was not very good. Rey makes me roll my eyes sometimes too. Well, she should, because she is a Mary Sue, where her powers have not been explained. She has not had a very good story arc, especially in The Last Jedi. So again, where you're coming from, I'm still waiting for the point. But just because I don't like a creative choice doesn't mean something's ruined. It just means it's different, and that honestly is something probably helping Star Wars, not hurting it. Well, it is hurting it, because look at what those creative decisions have done to Star Wars. Look what it's done to the box office. Look what it's done to the sentiment. Most people in my comments say, I am done with Star Wars. Most people say, I am not going to see Episode 9. I'm not going to see anything that Disney puts out. That is a bad thing, and that is not just because I'm saying anything or anyone else online is saying anything. It's because people are making their own decisions, saying, I don't like this product because it's not good, because it's not narratively strong, because there's a lot of issues creatively with this story. And yes, having something that is creatively wrong or creatively lazy is definitely something that can make a movie bad. So you're trying to make that point, but it's again, you're not using a statement. You're not using a concept that you can really back up with facts and figures in the same way that other people can with other points. So that's not a very good point to make as the crux of your argument, which it seems to be. So what is hurting Star Wars is the way fans are reacting to things they perceive as different or new with the franchise. No one is against something that's new or different. No one is against that. What we're against is bad storytelling. What we're against are weak characters. What we're against is just a hatred for the Star Wars fandom. That's what we're against. That's what we hate. And anyone with a brain, anyone with common sense will see that that is the reason. Not because we just don't like something because it's new or because it's different. I'm sorry, but everything at some point in the Star Wars universe was new and was different. Just look into the extended universe. There's a lot of new and different things that I've never been exposed to that I would probably like, because why? They're either good stories, they're good characters, etc. So once again, what point are you trying to make? You're still not getting there. One of the biggest issues I've found that people have with Star Wars post-Disney are the new characters. Well, because they're not very well good. They're not well-written characters. That's the reason why. There are hundreds, if not more, articles on the internet talking about how Rey, Finn, Poe, Rose, Holdo, even Kylo Ren are the worst. I will say this right now. Kylo in The Force Awakens was a cool concept. Could have been taken in so many different directions, but then The Last Jedi, the character was indeed ruined. There's nothing wrong with the character. It's how the character was portrayed. Kylo Ren by himself in isolation as a character is pretty damn cool. But what they did with the character sucks. Same thing with Poe. I actually really like Poe Dameron in the first film. But guess what? In The Last Jedi, they turned him into a bumbling idiot, and it just was stupid. Holdo was a bad character. Holdo was simply a garbage character. Every decision that she made keeping information from Poe, keeping all these things to herself, which really led to all the problems in the first place. That is a terribly written character. So yes, we have problems with, and also with Rey and Finn, we had nothing wrong with Rey and Finn completely in the first film. It was how their characters developed in The Last Jedi that really just was thrown off the rails. We already had a problem with Rey because she was a Mary Sue in the first film. We thought maybe they'll explain it, maybe she'll at least get some training, so at least it'll be somewhat justified, but they didn't do that. So no, what they did with the characters sucked. The characters themselves are not the worst. What they've done with the characters is what's bad. How dare Disney tell a Star Wars story that isn't all about dudes or about the Skywalker family? So once again, we have that comment about, oh, these are a bunch of sexist people who only want male characters. Well, you mentioned Poe, you mentioned Kylo Ren and Finn. Half the people you mentioned are men. So you've already just disregarded your own argument in the same paragraph that you're writing it. So no, it isn't all about dudes. That's why half the characters you mentioned are male, and people still have problems with them because they're not very well written. And the Skywalker family, we like a lot of characters that are not a part of the Skywalker family. I'm sorry, but like there are so many characters in the extended universe, especially that are not a part of the Skywalker family, who are not men who people like. Mara Jade being one person who really a lot of people like. Ahsoka is someone that Jeremy at Geeks and Gamers and a lot of other people like from the Clone Wars and Rebels series. So I'm sorry, but your argument, once again, does not hold water once put to scrutiny, and that's the biggest problem with people who write these articles, who write these garbage tier articles for these garbage tier sites, because they are not basing themselves in reality and they don't use common sense. Goes on to say, because that would be boring. That's how dare they. That's how dare they? Because that would be boring. That's how dare they. That's how dare they. I've never heard that expression before. That's how dare they. Interesting. Star Wars has always been diverse, just not in the way people would ordinarily see as diverse. Yoda, Chewbacca, even Jar Jar Binks, irritating as he is, in a galaxy where a little green guy with green ears is one of the wisest beings in existence, and a fur-covered giant might be the most loyal of friends, it's pretty arrogant to think that only predominantly white men hold roles of significant importance. No one is saying that. No one is saying that. All right, there might be one person online saying that. Again, there might be a small subsect of group, like very small minority group, so small that they don't mean anything, which is why no one talks about them except for you, because you just assume that everyone that disagrees with you, everyone that disagrees with The Last Jedi or the direction that Disney's going is a racist or a sexist. But no one actually says, you know what I want? I want a white lead male. That's what I want. Everything would be fixed if they just cast someone who is a white male. No one has said that. No one. Ivan Ortega, Jeremy from Geeks and Gamers, Jesse Milestone, Anna, that Star Wars girl, world-class BSers, Ethan Van Sciver, the list goes on and on. No one has said that, oh, you know what's going to fix everything? A white male lead. No one has said that, and no one ever will say that, who has a mind, who has reason, because that's not what we care about. Again, most people do not care about the color or the race or the gender of their lead. No, I mean, as long as it's a good character, that's what we care about. Is it a good story with a good character? If the answer is yes, then we're going to like it. Doesn't matter what any of those other subcategories are. It does not matter. Oh my goodness, it just frustrates. And I know people are going to say, oh, well, you're just feeding into the system. They want you to get angry. They want you to get clicks. But again, that's the reason why I'm doing this too, is because I want to be able to expose this nonsense for what it actually is, which is nonsense. It has nothing to do with race. This is just totally silly. By adding more female and diverse characters and by giving them prominent, important roles, the Disney era of Star Wars is simply adding to an already diverse world. Again, no one has a problem with diversity. Dear Lord, man, no one has a problem with diversity. No one has said that diversity is wrong. Forced diversity. Giving someone a role just because you want to appeal to a certain audience, that is problematic in and of itself. But guess what? If you did that, and if the character was good, if the character was well written and had a good story, people would say, you know what? I don't like that decision, but at the end of the day, I can't deny that the story is good or that the character is good. But the problem is that you're doing this forced diversity, and then on top of that, you're not making a good story, and you're not making a good character on top of that. Those are what we have a problem with, not with the race or gender of the person involved. What don't you get about this? Comicbook.com. Every other site that I've talked about that put out these articles. What do you not understand? What do you not understand about what we're trying to say here? As for the importance of the Skywalker family, the Jedi and Sith existed long before the Skywalkers did, but more than that, Skywalkers are still pretty important to the story. Kylo is one, by the way, being Leia's son. We haven't yet seen where his story will end, but again, his character was essentially ruined. I don't really know what else they could do with his character to bring him back in the next film, but that's the reason why we don't like it. It has nothing to do with him being a Skywalker or being related to Luke Skywalker. Again, we love Luke Skywalker because he was a good character, but it does not mean that we can't have other characters that are not Luke Skywalker that can't be good as well. No one is saying that. I don't know what, again, you're living in a bubble. These people, these SJW writers, are living in this bubble where they think everything is about race, everything's about gender, when in reality, most of the time, it's not. and they just can't accept that, and so they just keep writing these articles in this vacuum, in this void almost, where they think they're right, but in reality they're not. When you actually look to the people talking online, and you look to the diversity of the people talking online, and also look to the fact that no one online has said these things, or at least no one of significance has said these things, I mean, where are you coming from? Oh my goodness. All right. This is where someone will try to counter me by complaining that even this is an example of Disney ruining things with bad characters because Kylo should really be Jason Solo. But Disney went and got rid of the extended universe, thus ruining canon. Well, again, there's nothing wrong with someone saying they're ruining canon because there are a lot of really awesome things that are in the extended universe. But again, no one is saying that Kylo should be this or that. They say that only in reaction to the fact that Kylo's character is bad. If Kylo's characters were awesome, no one would be saying that. No one would be saying, oh, we wish there was this person. They're only saying that because they say, this character sucks. How can we make it better? Oh, this would be really cool. This would be really cool. But you don't want to base yourself in reality. You don't want to use common sense. You know what? That's fine. Live in your own bubble, but just stop putting these articles out because they don't make any sense and they're not helping your cause out. Yep, Disney did declare the EU non-canon, but honestly, that was a favor. Oh boy. I love the extended universe or the Star Wars Legends continuity as it's now known. There are some great stories there, but it's not like George Lucas even really considered those sacred himself. Lucas has said himself that he's never read any of the novels and knows nothing about the world. He even told Starlog that he most recently just checked the Star Wars Encyclopedia to make sure someone else hadn't used a name he was considering. Lucas had the ability to use the EU as canon, ignore it, and completely contradict it at his whim. Yes, he did, but at the same time, he also was making his own unique stories with pretty interesting characters. Even with the prequels, I will say, there were some at least interesting characters in there. The dialogue was crappy and the CGI was crappy. Again, the performances, there were some pretty good performances. Again, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi was pretty great. But it's just, again, you're just twisting things to make sense within your own mind, but you're just ignoring so many other things. And yes, Lucas would have likely contradicted things had he not sold Disney. And oh boy. And then this is going on talking, Oh, here we go. He often contradicts himself, having gone on the record to say that a sequel trilogy never ever would happen back in 2008, only for him to later elaborate on some really odd choices for one, namely a microscopic trilogy. Again, I want to see that story. I would much rather see a story about Bob and Nancy the Will than about the current characters who are being told in Star Wars. And guess what? You can make them any gender or race you want because guess what? They're not human persons, they're wills, and so they have no race or gender. Oh my goodness, what a concept. But at the end of the day, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because the current films we have are not good. Simple as that. They're not good. Narratively, they're not very strong. The characters aren't very strong. The characters don't make a whole lot of sense. And that's what we have a problem with. Not all this other garbage tier stuff that you're talking about. And it ends with saying, new characters that are in keeping with the Star Wars we first fell in love with, and while also weaving the beloved extended universe, are both things that fans fundamentally want and Disney is delivering. They're not delivering. That's the problem. And it's far from ruining or destroying the franchise. It is. Those are the things that are going to keep fans coming back. Fans aren't coming back. Look to the box office numbers. Again, you are contradicting yourself constantly. Fans are not coming back now. That's why no one saw Solo. That's why people are not going to come out in droves to go support Episode 9, because the fans are being left behind, because they are ruining Star Wars in that way. How do you ruin Star Wars? By making Star Wars lose money for the first time ever. Not even the prequels, as bad as they are, in my opinion, lost money. Solo did. So, again, just look up boxofficemojo.com and look at it for yourself. Look at how much they spent on the movie. Look at how much the movie's actually going to make. When you take 60% of the total box office take, it's not going to reach the amount of money they spent on this film. Again, $200 million loss. Let's not forget about that, please. There are other things that we're going to keep fans coming back. No one's coming back. It's going to keep people talking about the universe. Yes, that is true. We are talking about the universe, but it's not good press. And despite what people say, any press is good press, not when it's going to keep people from coming to support your films. That's not pointing fingers and being nasty to others. It's going to inspire new fans to come to the world, check out the EU, and to keep Star Wars alive for generations to come. But again, they are not keeping it alive for generations to come because people like you are attacking the fans. People like Ryan Johnson are attacking the fans. You are attacking us in this article alone. You have called people like me racist. You have called me sexist. You have insinuated so many things about me instead of, again, basing yourself with reason, with intellect, with actual thoughtful discussion, and instead you just call people by names and just assume everyone's going to agree with you. But guess what? Most people don't. Look at the box office numbers for Solo. Anyway, guys, what are your thoughts on this article? What are your thoughts on comicbook.com? I mean, no, Disney's not ruining Star Wars. Yes, Disney is ruining Star Wars. Just look at the box office numbers for that fact. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Star Wars can be saved? Do you think Star Wars can be brought back? Do you think that the terrible characters and the terrible storylines are going to be enough to keep people going? I don't think so. But anyway, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I always love hearing discussions in the chat. So thank y'all so much for watching. Have a great day. And as always, God bless.